so simple, and it's so beneficial.
One of the things I think is interesting, and I've done a lot of reading about, is intermittent fasting. I have been trying to think of a way to phrase this for the last hour and a half that will not be insulting, because I'm not calling you old. I like the fact you've been in the business for a while, because you've seen things come and go in different iterations multiple times.
Yes.
I've been paying attention to diet for 20 years, and in the time I've paid attention, it was Atkins, Protein, Power. That was the first one I followed. And then it went away for a bit, and then it came back as keto paleo. And so I think intermittent fasting as well has had sort of multiple iterations. Jason Fung, who is a Canadian, I think he's a nephrologist, a kidney doctor, he's sort of seen as being the scientist promoting that, but there are a million bros out there, and Rhonda Patrick, who I mentioned, has been on Joe Rogan's program, talks about intermittent fasting. There are 1,000 versions. The time-restricted window, the alternate day fasting, where you fast every other day, the extended fasts. Do you have any opinion on fasting? Yeah,
absolutely.
You're a fantastic guest. You are absolutely invited back. Listen, you call me, you anytime you want to come back, hit me. Intermittent fasting.
Okay, so your body wants nutrients about every 4 to 5 waking hours. That's why you get hungry. So you get up in the morning and you have breakfast. That's going to fuel your body for those morning hours. So around noontime, you start getting hungry. It's like, okay, your body is trying to tell you, I need some more fuel. So, and this goes on throughout the day. And so you want to honor that part of your physiology that says, I need fuel, send down some good nutrients for me. So that's an important part. So I am not into this fasting business at all. If you want to do an intermittent fast, and it's like from 12 p.m., like, you stop eating after your dinner meal, and you don't eat anything until your breakfast meal the next day, I don't have a problem with that. That's
12 p.m. is noon. 12 a.m. When you're asleep, you're saying.
No, last meal. You start this fast after 6 p.m. for your dinner meal, and then you don't eat anything until breakfast the next day. So that's a 12-hour fast.
Sure.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
It's almost, we kind of do that anyway.
Well, the name of the meal is break fast.
Exactly.
So okay.
And your body needs fuel first thing in the morning. There's just hands down. You've already fasted for X number of hours because you've been asleep. So your body needs to have fuel so that it can get going in the morning if you want to be productive. And we know, and from studies that have been done on adults and for kids, the mental performance is much stronger if they have breakfast. And it's because they're fueling up their body.
So the idea of, I'm going to lump fasting into 2 categories right now. The two that I see as being the most popular. One is the eating window, and they have a variety of names that I roll my eyes to say them. But they put, so it's like, I'm going to eat only within a 6-hour, a 4-hour, a 2-hour window. As far as you're concerned, that's just, it's rigmarole, and it's just too complicated.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
And again, it's trying to follow a fad diet of one variety or not. It's another version of a fad diet. I definitely don't recommend that people go for a day or 2 or 3 or 4 days without food. There's water fasts and all that kind of thing. I do not recommend that at all.
That was number 2 that I was going to ask about. So not, and you'll hear people talk about the benefits of that. Autophagy, which is spelled with an A, if any of you are going to look it up. It looks like autophagy, the idea that your body sort of cleans up old crap that it doesn't need in it. Even some plant-based people. There's a group in California, I think it's in Santa Rosa, called True North Health Center. Alan Goldhammer and Michael Clapper, who are both whole food plant-based doctors. They at the True North Health Center will do water fasting protocols from a week to a month. And they talk about this sort of the autophagy and also the body's ability to kind of heal itself. Is there merit in that?
I don't think there is. And
okay.
Again, the human body is designed to take care of itself. This business about wanting to flush the system. I take this because it flushes me out. Well, or there's some people are doing these crazy enemas and so forth. Just leave your colon alone. It's a self-cleaning organ. Your whole system is self-cleaning. That's assuming that you're putting in healthy nutrients. It'll take care of itself. Your body knows what to do. There's body wisdom that we need to be paying attention to.
Carol Throckmorton is anti-enema. for the record. So down in Fairfield, where my wife is from, there's the big resort where Oprah stays and Hugh Jackman and everything's called the Raj.
Yeah.
And the owner of the Raj is a super duper cool guy that I would love to get on the program. So shout out Rogers Badgett. If we could ever get you on the show, that'd be great. But they do a lot of, they have fancy names for them, but they're enemas. And it's the one thing, that's not true, there are many things, but of the many things I would probably never ever do for my health, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I do not want to have to do that. So I guess physiologically speaking, I don't really see how it would be all that beneficial, although I think people just like to do things that sort of make themselves feel cleaner or something like that.
Well, and there's always somebody that's ready to sell you a procedure.
Correct.
And give you a hefty bill for doing so.
There's a great story that was in the local news. Jim Carrey was in Fairfield doing all kinds of protocols, and he got so tired of it, he went to a local Burger King for an ice cream cone, and there was a kids baseball team there. He took pictures with them, so that was actually in the news. I think something that you said that's important, because I've done a lot of reading on the fasting thing. I've done a bunch of it myself. I found some of the things that the researchers will talk about to happen to me, and I fully admit that myself within myself is an N of 1, so I'm hardly a population study in myself. But is that, and this is something that I've heard Dr. Clapper say on interviews, is that the most important thing is what are you going to eat afterwards? So regardless of what kind of a cleanse you think you're doing, if you go back to eating an unhealthy diet, all those benefits are going to go away almost immediately. And certainly they at True North recommend this whole food plant-based diet, and kind of, because then you're sort of flooding your body with nutrients. And just to finish that story, what people will say if you read about fasting is, oh, I was really hungry for the first day, and then 3 or 4 days in, I just got this surge of energy. And they talk about evolution, which is at that point your senses are heightened because your body's looking for food and so forth. And during the protocol I was doing for the movie that I was shooting, that's actually not when I first met you. When I first became sort of friends with you, because I met you back in residency during the cardiac thing. I never felt the surge of energy 3 or 4 days in. And I attributed that to the fact that I was eating this very healthy diet. And I wonder if you're eating like crap all the time, if you fast for a couple of days, you do feel better because it gave your body a chance to get some of that nonsense sort of processed through. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's sort of a theory I had when I was shooting the movie.
Well, even if you are doing a fast, your body's not going out without sources of glucose, because you're not taking in any food, so you're not getting any glucose in, but your liver is still producing glucose through the gluconeogenesis process from fat. It's not a very efficient way to do it, but it can be done. So that's one of the survival strategies that our bodies have.
Yeah. So let's see. You did such a beautiful job of covering some of the things I want to talk about. Here is something that you touched on, but I wanted to get asked. It seems like everyone is wanting to lose weight, but in my experience as a physician and as somebody who's been heavy, losing weight is not the trick. Maintaining the weight loss is, I was trying to think of a percentage, 90%, 95% of the trick. What would be your strategies for, because people will say, I lost weight with keto, I lost weight with paleo, and like you just said, you're cutting out these processed foods and so forth. Go ahead.
Then they don't want to be on these diets forever. So when they stop the diets, they go back to some old eating behaviors, and then they end up picking back the weight up again. So that's one of the things that happens with that.
So what do we do? How do we maintain the weight loss that we so desired when we began our diets?
How many times do I have to say plant-based whole food diet? That and regular activity, it's really important to have those two work together. The other thing that's really kind of interesting, I just kind of ran across this accidentally, is that I had the 23andMe genetic testing done. And one of the questions, or one of the results that they give you, is that they will tell you how your weight compares to other of your ancestors or in your cohort.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's cool.
And so if you have kind of a predestined weight range because of your genetics, it's really hard to fight with that. And so I think the thing that's important, if you are observing a healthy plant-based diet and you're exercising, your weight is going to drift to wherever it's right for you, and so that you don't have to be anxious about it. And so, stop looking at the body mass index tables and so forth. It is extremely individual. You can kind of tell by looking at yourself in the mirror how things are going. It's like, oh, I probably ought to up and exercise a little bit because, even on a plant-based diet, if you're not exercising, you can pick up weight. Again, nutrients are processed differently from one person to the other. So instead of saying, well, I need to weigh 110 pounds, even though it's not realistic for you, you kind of have that wish out there. It's like, gee, if I do enough, if I eat right, if I exercise enough, I can get down to 110 pounds, when that is not realistic for your body, your frame size. Sure. So we need to give up all of that stuff, eat healthfully, exercise regularly, let our bodies find its appropriate weight.
One of the things you said brings up something I hear a lot, which is there's the physics behind weight loss, if I can use that term. The thermodynamics would say that if you want to lose weight, you have to eat fewer calories than you expend. If you want to gain weight, you have to eat more than you expend. And then you have the variety of people, whether trying to sell you something or not in some cases, that trumpet from the rooftops on social media and all over that that's not true. It's a matter of the kind of foods that you eat. Is that right? The calories in, calories out in general, or is that not really correct?
Well, back when I started in nutrition, I kind of went through that same thing. X number of 3,500 calories in a pound, and so on and so forth. And you can go through these calculations that if I wanted to lose 20 pounds in this X period of time, then I have to have this many calories in and this many calories out to achieve that. That's the human body doesn't work that way. It doesn't. The math is up in your brain, but it's not how your body works.
Okay. One of the things that I heard Dr. Greger say is that so a calorie is a calorie. We hear that a lot. Those are from the people that want to tell you that 100 calories of Pop-Tart is the same as 100 calories of apple. But I've heard both Dr. Greger and Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who we mentioned earlier, say that in a whole food plant-based diet, not necessarily is a calorie because your body, there's a lot of fiber attached that your body doesn't always see. So 100 calories, I think Greger used the example of 100 calories of nuts, you might really see 85 calories of it because of the fiber that's bound up. Is that right in your experience?
Yeah, I would say that that's correct too. Yeah.
Because I think that's an interesting concept. When I first met Cooper here, he and I were having this conversation, and one of the things that I think was interesting, and I should let you talk for yourself at some point if you want, but it was that the idea that you could eat more food. And I remember I made a thing of oatmeal in front of Cooper, and I put a whole frozen bag of mango in it. And I think I blew your mind a little bit. It was like, you're going to eat that whole thing? And it's like, yeah. And we looked at the calorie count on the back, and I think it floored you a little bit how this bowl of food was just overflowing, and the whole thing was not that calorically dense, I guess. Is that, am I making that up?
To me, I think the biggest sell about the whole food plant-based diet is as long as you pick the right foods, you get to eat more, if anything. Today I went to Wendy's and I got a 4 for $4 because it's $4, and it was, it's the worst type of food you can get. It's French fries and chicken nuggets, which are who knows what, and a bacon cheeseburger. So sorry to confess this to you, Carol. I need to make some changes after listening to you. But
So did you later say, gee, I really am happy that I ate that meal, or it's like I shouldn't have done that?
Well, it was $4, so that's a lot of value there. But
well, I mean, really, is it $4 for all of that? I mean, it's cheap food, but is it $4 worth of beneficial food? No.
Sure, but this leads me down a path that I wasn't planning on going down either, but I think is interesting, is that when I was in graduate school in New Jersey, I was dating a girl who was getting her PhD in public health at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And I had never really thought about the economic sort of issues that are surrounding food and what's subsidized. Baltimore is known for having these open air markets that are fantastic. And think of them as farmers markets plus a bunch of other stuff. And so Summer and I went to this place, and a dozen donuts was $1 and a tomato was $3.
Yeah.
And she said to me, imagine if you are a poor single mother with 4 or 5 kids. You can feed your family. They may not be thriving, but you can feed your family on the donuts, whereas to try to get enough tomatoes, and you're not just going to eat tomatoes, I mean, you're going to want to have a bunch of other stuff. That I think is where some people at least would say, there's economic disparity. Certainly we live in a state where corn subsidies are big, a lot of things, meat subsidies are big. We see a lot of sort of political shenanigans in there. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. There should be no subsidies at all for those kinds of foods. We should be, if we subsidize anything, it should be healthy food, like fruits and vegetables, to make them affordable for people who otherwise don't have access to.
Carol Throckmorton is a food libertarian. Let the free market play it out.